family. How's everybody doing this morning? It's good to see everybody. It's actually really good to see everybody. It's been 2 weeks for me since I've been in Fairbanks. I just got back yesterday afternoon after spending 2 weeks with a bunch of teenagers down at our camp down in Talkeetna, running a volunteer program, which was a lot of fun. A lot of hard work, and now I'm sick as a result. But on the flip side, I now have a beard. Yeah. So I specifically decided to hold on to it for the time being, for all of your benefit, and then it'll go away tomorrow. There you go. In my mind, I was thinking, see, this is why I don't do this, but Pete is all excited about it. It's one of those things. But that's the sickness. That has nothing to do with anything. That's just I'm sick, struggling. But we're here, and it's good, and I'm fired up to be able to get in God's Word with you. This morning, what we're doing, actually, so let's back up a little bit. Last week, we finished the book of Galatians, which is very exciting, good times. Is that what we did? Oh, okay, we did something else. I don't know. It was great, whatever. It's all good. But anyway, regardless of what happened last week, obviously, I'm not entirely sure. We finished the book of Galatians. Yeah, perfect. But this week, we're going to be jumping into another book. We're going to be starting the book of 1 Corinthians. So we've gone back and forth. We were thinking about going to 2 Thessalonians, but then we decided to go into 1 Corinthians instead. So 16 chapters in 1 Corinthians over the next 16 weeks. It'll be a great time. So in order to appreciate, though, the book of 1 Corinthians, as we always do as we jump into a new book, we always need a little bit of context to be able to help us appreciate what Paul is writing and why he's writing. And so we're going to talk a little bit about the city of Corinth for a moment. So Corinth, in the ancient world, it was one of the premier cities of the ancient world. It was known for its trade and business. It was known for its wealth and prosperity and all of these great things. There was very special products that came out of Corinth. They were known for their Corinthian brass. They were known for their diversity and, again, their prosperity and just being an all-around amazing place to be. However, on the flip side of all of this wealth and prosperity and great things in the city of Corinth, it was also known for some other things. It was a place that was very well known for its pagan temple worship, its idolatry, prostitution, moral corruption, and just general all sorts of immorality. Just imagine all of the worst parts of big cities, and you put them all together, and that was kind of, you get a picture of what Corinth was known for. It was actually so well known for its kind of crazy and wild living that in the Greek language there was a term that literally translated to living like a Corinthian. And that term was applied to people that were known for living without any sexual restraint. I'm sure we could come up with a few more English translations that I can share with you, but we're in church, so I'm not going to. But you can imagine what sorts of words that we know that would be fitting for this Greek word that they used to describe living like a Corinthian. So it was well known for all kinds of things. And so you can already imagine, as you think about it, you can already imagine the problems that the Corinthian church may have been facing. Because they were the church of God, the church of Christ, right? Trying to live out their Christian faith, but they existed in this city, in this society, in this place that was known for everything against Christianity. And so the problem became an issue of, is the church influencing the city, or is the city influencing the church? And actually, that's a great question for us to ask as we think about our churches and our faith and our relationship with God. Are we influenced by society around us? Or as Christians, are we influencing society? Are we influencing the city in which we live? Unfortunately, for the ancient city of Corinth and the church in Corinth at this time, they were losing that battle. They were being influenced by the city, by the society that was around them. And so essentially, we've moved from Galatians, which was a pretty strong letter of correction, to the Galatian church, and now we're going to move to 1 Corinthians, which is another very strong letter of correction now to the church in Corinth. And as we go through this book, we're going to see a lot of these very specific issues that Paul mentions as he's talking to the church in Corinth. And in fact, either the Corinthian church had sent a letter to Paul, or maybe it sent a delegation to Paul, and so they had a bunch of questions. And so in the latter half of the book of 1 Corinthians, we're going to see Paul address a lot of specific questions that they had for him. And so we're going to see a lot of these problems that this ancient church faced. But I think you'll notice as we go through all of these problems that these problems of this ancient church, the problems themselves aren't so ancient. That they're problems that we still face today. Issues and challenges that we still face in our Christian lives today. And a lot of the correction that we find in the book of 1 Corinthians is also very applicable to us in modern day Christianity. And so as we open this morning, I'm gonna skip a big chunk of 1 Corinthians 1, and I'm going to get to a chunk of this book, or a chunk of this chapter that I think really sets the stage for kind of all the rest of 1 Corinthians. There's a couple of specific issues that are mentioned in the very beginning of the chapter, but I'm going to kind of get something that, again, kind of sets the stage for the rest of the book. So let's dive in here. It's going to be in 1 Corinthians chapter 1, starting in verse 18. It says, "For the message of the cross is foolishness to those who are perishing, but to us who are being saved it is the power of God. For it is written, I will destroy the wisdom of the wise, the intelligence of the intelligent I will frustrate." Where is the wise person? Where is the teacher of the law? Where is the philosopher of this age? Has God not made foolish the wisdom of the world? For since in the wisdom of God, the world through its wisdom did not know him, God was pleased with the foolishness of what was preached to save those who believe. Jews demand signs, and Greeks look for wisdom, but we preach Christ crucified, a stumbling block to the Jews, and foolishness to the Gentiles. But to those whom God has called, both Jews and Greeks, Christ, the power of God and the wisdom of God. For the foolishness of God is wiser than human wisdom, and the weakness of God is stronger than human strength. And I love this passage again because I think it really does bring into view the struggle that the Corinthian church was going through. Their primary struggle, the issue that they were facing. We'll talk about all of the very specifics as we go through the book, but the primary struggle is this. There's this belief that Christianity and the practice of Christianity is foolish. It was stupid. It made no sense. When they looked around, the Corinthian church, when they looked around and they saw the society around them, they saw what they were doing and how exciting and fun and fulfilling that looked to be. And when they saw that all these people were doing these things and getting away with it and seeming to be happy, it became very easy to let those practices seep in, to let those values of society seep into their faith. That temptation to fight, to be different, became so much harder. Because really, it's just so much easier to blend in, isn't it? It's just so much easier just to try to fit in with those around us, rather than stand out, rather than be different. Welcome to the Christian struggle of today. This is still the struggle that we face today. When we're struggling with our faith, when we're feeling challenged, when we're not sure that we want to live it out, that we don't want to practice this Christian life, really, if we get down to the root of it, the problem is that we think the practice of Christianity is stupid. We think it's silly. We think it's ridiculous. And instead, the way that the world does it, or the way that we want to do it, that's going to be the way that gives us what we want. And again, the Christian stuff, that's silly. It's not going to get us what we want. It's not going to bring us meaning. It's not going to bring us purpose. I want to do it my way, or I want to do it the way that I see these other people doing it, because that way seems to work. And so again, that is our root problem when we struggle in our faith. is that we just think that Christianity is foolish. We think that it's not the way to go. And when you think about it, I mean, come on, think about some of the things that we are called to do in Christianity. When you think about it, it doesn't make any sense. In Christianity, when someone hurts us deeply and someone causes us harm, what are we called to do? Well, we're called to love them and to forgive them and to care about them, to pray for them. That doesn't make any sense, right? As Christians, we're called to go out and serve the poor, the needy. We're called to give of ourselves to help other people, to serve other people, and expect nothing in return. Doesn't make any sense. That there's no logic behind that. In Christianity, we're called to go out to share our faith, to spread this gospel of Jesus as far and as wide as humanly possible, even in the face of persecution and rejection. Even when people don't want to hear it, we're still called to go out and to preach it. Doesn't make any sense. It's stupid. It's silly. It's foolish in the eyes of the world. But that's what we're called to. That's the life that we're supposed to be living. I just got back, like I said, from this Hope Volunteer Corps program where 19 teenagers spent anywhere between $1,500 to $2,000 in program fees and flights to come up to Alaska for Brian and I to work them for 2 weeks. For them to move thousands of pounds of wood and thousands of pounds of dirt from one place to another place and just grind them through this brutal, horrible work. And they paid money to do it. It doesn't make sense. Okay, maybe they didn't pay, but their parents paid money for them to do it. Or they started a GoFundMe account and they got other people to pay for it. Right? It doesn't make any sense to do that. It makes no sense to go through all that pain and sacrifice unless there's a bigger purpose. In the eyes of the world, there's no logic that would make that happen. That's just the thing, right? We are not called to live by worldly logic. We're not called to live from a worldly perspective. But for those of us who get it, when we understand, when we get past the foolishness, we're able to experience something amazing. We're able to experience the power of God. The power of what He's done for us through all the crazy. But here's the question, right? How do we get there? How do we get past all the foolishness? How do we get past that idea of this is crazy, this makes no sense? Well, first thing, I think we have to get comfortable with the idea of people seeing us as weird. Right? And again, that's one of the most difficult things, because what is one thing that we all desperately want? To be accepted, to blend in. Most of us don't want to make waves. Most of us don't want to stand out. We just want to blend in and be okay, and we don't want to turn heads. We don't want people to think that we're different or strange. But that's not Christianity, is it? That's not what God calls us to be. And I think Paul puts this out very nicely back in Galatians, so we're going back to Galatians here for a moment. But Galatians chapter 1, verse 10, it says, "Am I now trying to win the approval of human beings or of God? Or am I trying to please people? If I were still trying to please people, I would not be a servant of Christ." So often we want to be accepted by people around us. We want to just fit in. We want to blend in. But no, God calls us to stand out, to be different, to not care so much about what the people around us think. So we have to be willing to look foolish in our faith. We have to be willing for people to look at us and be like, wow, you're making decisions that make no sense. Are you willing to make that decision in your life? Are you willing to be looked at as the weird guy? You might already be looked at as. Sorry. But it's one of those things. So that's the question. That's the question that I want us to think about today and discuss today. How can you be a fool for God this week? What kind of decisions will you make that maybe don't make any sense from a worldly perspective, but you know are right before God? and that are right in God's eyes? Or what decisions have you made in the past? What kind of crazy decisions have you made in the past that didn't make any sense? And again, what are those decisions going to look like this week? You know, when we live this way, we might be, and we probably will be, considered stupid by many, considered foolish, ridiculous by many. But for others, those that are looking for God, those that are looking for something more, will be a light. We'll be a light to them, and we'll be a light to one another. And when we go after that, and when we serve God in that way, our faith will have an impact. It will help people find Him. It will bring us meaning and purpose and significance. It will make that tangible impact in our lives and the lives of those around us, and ultimately, it will glorify God. Amen?
Amen.
Amen.